Tuesday, October 15th, 2013, and this is a regular meeting of the Dublin Standalone Services District Board of Directors. Presiding this evening is President Dawn Benson.
I call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Director Halkin?
Here.
Director Howard?
Here.
Director Duarte?
Here.
Vice President Von Leopold? Here. President Benson?
Here. Any special announcements, activities?
Nothing tonight that I'm aware of.
Okay. Moving right on to public comment. Any public comment at this time? Okay. We'll move on to reports by the general manager and staff. 6A.
Yes, President Benson, members of the board, a few things for your scheduling. Next week, the Neighborhood Improvement Committee will be holding their annual meeting with the neighbors at a wastewater treatment plant on October 21st at 5:30. It's not shown as such as an upcoming meeting on the board calendar. It's not really a committee meeting, but in this case, Directors Von Leopold and Duarte expressed an interest to attend, and because they constitute the wastewater committee, we're going to go ahead and notice it as a Brown Act, under Brown Act as a wastewater committee meeting. So that's just FYI for you. Item 8A, which is on the consent calendar, is identified for your consideration as approval by motion. There's an agreement involved, and because we like to have a permanent administrative record of the board's action for agreements, we'd like you to approve that item by resolution. There's a resolution in front of the dais, on the dais related to that. So if anybody's going to make a motion to that effect for the consent calendar, please reference the associated resolution for item 8A. Under agenda management, I would recommend that you take all of the closed sessions immediately after the consent calendar item. I think that'll lead to the smoothest flowing board meeting possible, rather than the up and down, in and out kind of situation. And finally, under correspondence to in front of the board, there's none that's been received since our next board meeting. That's all I have.
Okay. Committee reports, any questions? Any agenda management, we've talked about that. Number 7, approval of minutes, regular meeting of October 1st. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Your second, all in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Okay, we're moving right along to 8. A, B, C, D, E, and F. So that's our consent calendar. Do I hear a motion?
Well, let's see. I move for approval with the modification that Mr. Halchik just talked about, the revised resolution.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? So moved. Okay, at this time, I'd like to, the board will be going into closed session, and for 4 closed session items listed on this agenda. There's 11A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 for 3 of subdivision of D of Government Code section 54956.9, one case. 11B, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code section 54957.6, agency designated representative general manager, unrepresented employee, interim financial services manager. Business C, or 11C, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code section 54957.6, agency designated representative general manager, unrepresented employee, interim engineering services manager. 11D, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code section 54957, title general manager. If there is a report from closed session, it will be announced at the open session.
And President Benson, and helping out Mr. Nelson, we need to identify individuals who will be attending each closed session.
So only the items B and C, if you are the district's negotiator, then they're correctly noticed, and we've made the announcements.
And you will be joining me in
Yes.
that closed session.
So for understanding, our actually don't need 11B.
That's correct. Item 11B is not needed because of the passage of the consent. Thank you.
welcome Mr. John Archer. Off you go. And I might also notice that this is Dave Reed's flag. Is that correct? We can have a special meeting.
What did she get?
Hi, Deb. Yeah, thanks for coming. Well, not yet. No, this will be the first one. Yes. And there's a reason. One of the reasons. One of the reasons. Discussion about it. So that's always a little interesting. This item, the other thing that may be discussed, will be discussed, so, staff is asking us big piece of the cost. That's kind of that may be this thing. Well, that has to be so. Oh, okay. Congratulations. Okay. Okay, great. So did you speak with Carter? Or you just, you did. Okay. Okay, super. His last name. So that's what's anyway, I'm glad to see you.
Okay. She's still on? Okay. There's nothing to report from closed session, so we will move on to board business 9A, water treatment plant fencing and security, phase 1, CIP 12-P004, award construction agreement to McGuire and Hester.
President Bethel, members of the board, I'd like to take just a moment on this background only because it's all the way anyway. Basically, the project has a couple parts of this action item has a couple parts. First of all, we went to bid our specifications, have a requirement for a specific insurance index requirement, and the low bidder does not meet that requirement. So we are recommending that we go to the second one. I'd also point out that the engineer, the bid is substantially over the engineer's estimate. It's sort of a probably inappropriate comment. Landscape architects are probably not the best ones to do estimating for heavy grading and slope repair. So, but the bids are pretty close. The 4 bids are pretty close, which would indicate that the plan inspector pretty good, pretty clear. Nobody was really out of line in the bidding. So we're comfortable recommending the second low bidder. The third comment is, yes, it's more expensive. We have 2 representatives here tonight that may or may want to talk to you. First is Bill Austin, who's from McGuire and Hester. And Deborah Wall, you may recognize as one of the neighbors that have been interested in landscaping. I also point out that she's now a Parks and Recreation Commissioner for the city of Pleasant. So she has moved up. When you look at the construction cost, the cost of the landscaping is essentially what we said it was back when the district agreed to do the limited landscaping that goes from the front of the control building along the south property line, further south, and turns the corner of the south side to screen the plant from kids' play area. What has increased the cost is simply two things. One is when we put in the PG&E undergrounding, PG&E built a new big switching system for the power coming in. There's not vehicle access to that. We have to, as part of the project, we have to widen the road and wall on the south property line on our property, so PG&E to get in and service it. They gave us a buy on that requirement when they're building it, because we do have this project in the CIP, and hopefully that's we're going to switch gears in the first year of existence. The second thing is the south east corner of the property is sliding down the hill, essentially, in the canal, and it's starting to stress the utilities in that area. And if we put in new fencing and new landscaping with that going on, in a few years it'll be down in the canal. And so we've also added this project, repairing that slope. And essentially they'll grade it, they'll build a retaining wall with portable bricks, if you will, the block, and then put in fence that won't bend your slides a little bit. It's the least expensive. It'd be tremendously expensive to build a heavy wall. Probably require 10, 15-year maintenance to reset the block wall. Over the long term, it's a lot cheaper than doing it anyway. So that was the difference in basically the cost. So it's all important work for the treatment plant, provide a lot better access for the operations folks, and also limit damage underground utilities with the back slides down. I'd like to say on the previous item you approved was Zone 7. Zone 7 has been very cooperative in working with them. They have a test project where they plant grass in the Silver Canal to control erosion. There's a flat area, a fence line. If you were gone out there in late summer, the weeds are probably 5 feet high. They've allowed us to go on to their property with landscaping, so that we tie that together with their grass slope. We'll actually have some trees outside the fence. And so it irrigates it much better, and it'll take care of a lot of the weed problems we've had in that strip of the side of the soil. So with that, I would recommend the rejection of the lowest bidder, and recommend the award of the contract to Warren.
Okay, now I do have a speaker card, so at this time I'd like to bring up, is it Deborah Wall? Come on up. Congratulations, by the way.
Great, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the chance to speak tonight. I'm very excited to speak not only as a Val Vista resident, but as a Pleasanton Park and Rec Commissioner. So I really have a dual role here in making sure that we move forward with the landscaping and provide that fencing and visual screen to all the members of our community that use that park. And so I just wanted to have to give my support for moving forward with this plan and awarding this contract so that the landscaping can start. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I can move for approval of item 9A.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, do any comments? Sorry.
Is this the end? We've been shoveling money into this pit for ever since I've been on the board.
At some point, I suspect we'll have some requests and pressures to improve some of the landscaping around other areas of the plant, but that's the end for now.
You know, for the record, this
We have a
is
long-term CIP improving landscaping, but it's not a current.
this, I mean, and I will break from tradition, I actually support this when it comes to a vote, because I voted for the consent stuff. But you know, this is an industrial facility that predates both the park and the neighborhood by many years. And I think we've been more than accommodating trying to fix this. So that's.
Well, we're being a good neighbor, and that's what's important.
But we were there first.
The only question I have is, when you added the erosion control, slope control, and the paving, why was the estimate upgraded?
Well, I could ask Steve that, but We didn't really, quite honestly, think through what we had to do until we got the soils report and the evaluation. We guesstimated way lower than we thought we could just kind of regrade it, reshape it a little bit, keep it for a while. It would be a very short while, it was good for.
Basically, the initial estimate was basically a fence and landscape.
That's basically the plan.
That's a little more.
We did put some money in for sloping and roof repair, but we got into it, particularly sloping more extensive than we had anticipated.
I'd just like to counter for the record. This is the first time we will finally be putting in the landscaping that we promised to those residents, not only to the residents, but as a way of mitigating the odor. And I think we're finally living up to our commitment, and I'm very pleased to see it finally happening.
Well, I'm pleased to see that too, because it's finally done.
I mean, it started in
There's
like
several-
1997.
But there's several perspectives on the situation.
Correct. But at this time, let's call a vote. Do I hear all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? It passes.
Thank you very much.
Yay! Thank you so much for coming.
We're going to have a tree planting ceremony.
Yes, I will plant a tree there. I will definitely do that. Great story. All right, we're now on to agenda item 9B, reconsideration of the board's prior decision related to the safety officer position.
Mr. President, Benson, members of the board, if I could set the stage for a discussion just with sort of an explanation of how we got here. The safety officer position was included in the budget that was approved by the board back in June, along with authorization to hire FTE, refilling the position. Back I'm looking to Director Duarte, I think the chronology a little bit snarled up, please correct me, when I met, I guess it was the end of August. He raised some lingering concerns he had about the board's action at that point, and asked me basically what the process would be to put it back on the table. So using the board guidelines that have been approved by the board, steered it back to the board at our last meeting for reconsideration. Director Duarte had some comments information for the board's consideration. The first step is for the board to in fact vote to reopen the issue, which they did. The result of the discussion was to refer to the personnel committee for deliberations. That personnel committee met last week, Monday, formulated a recommendation which is being presented to the board tonight for your consideration. And with that, I'll let the personnel committee kind of explain your thinking, because I think your recommendation, well, I know your recommendation is to reaffirm the board's original decision. I'll let you explain the thought process of it.
Well, I personally started looking into this and doing some research for myself based on my company, and I started looking at the different manager positions, and I realized, and it was crystal clear at that point, that I think safety officer, which was what Director Duarte was looking at, was really not the title, and it really was a multi-purpose type of position. So it was like, I looked at manager of workplace health and safety, I'm for regulatory compliance, security and emergency preparedness, and I realized safety officer in one context could be just one type of position, versus what we're asking this position to be is really encompassing all three of those manager type titles. So I recommend it, after looking at this and reading all the different job descriptions from other agencies, I just felt, maybe, I think safety officer maybe isn't really the title it needs to be. I think it needs to be some sort of something with environmental compliance, something along the that ties all those together, because they're really going to be it's a pretty big job. So that was kind of, and I thought, it's like, I think safety officer might not be the title for this in the long run, and maybe at the next MOU, we look at maybe retitling that. So that's my thoughts, but it certainly with safety officer, seeing it one way, I can see where it would be misconstrued as maybe a lower level position, when in reality, this is a manager position that is going to go across several different facets of our relationship with OSHA, OSHA, and security and emergency preparedness and regulatory compliance, in addition to running their safety program. So that's kind of where I'm at. Director?
Yeah, I had similar feelings. Also, back in the budget process, we approved a certain number of FTEs. And I view those FTEs as kind of capital for the staff to spend. And it's kind of a resource for staff. And staff, overwhelmingly, we had several people come to our meeting, and that's how the staff wants to spend money. I think it's extremely important that we have a safety officer and all these other functions. And, I was persuaded that if it's that important to go to the top of their list as to how they spend that capital, it's pretty hard for me to argue.
So that's kind of our feeling. But it was like, to me, it was just, for some reason, it was just a real crystal clear that I think this safety officer and all its components that it looks over is probably maybe not the perfect title, but and the last time we did a title change on this position was 1991. So as things have changed slightly since that, to me that was, and we did listen to the unions that came, the union folks that came, and they were very passionate about keeping this position in the CSRMA. It's just it's a safety precaution. I think we've kind of been sitting idle with for a long time, and it should have been. For me, I think it's something we should fill. So, any other comments?
Well, in reading the committee report, I think it's a done deal that my request is going to be denied, and that's the due process, the way we're supposed to work. I just want to go on record as saying that I don't agree with it. I think one of the things I'll ask legal counsel, just between he and I, at some point later in the month, is just how when we say we're not supposed to micromanage and not go along with the general manager and staff's recommendation, how is a board member supposed to address their fiduciary responsibility, their obligation to the public about speaking up and saying something no, just because the staff wants it? It doesn't necessarily make it right. And what recourse do we have other than making a rubber stamp? And the whole process of the budget approval, it still rankles me because the budget is brought to me with a complete package with that position, not just an FTE, that specific position. And my opinion is that I don't think it warrants a full-time job, a full-time person. I'll still stand by that, absolutely stand by that. And any contractor, and make no mistake, operating a wastewater treatment plant is not that dissimilar from operating a heavy civil construction engineering company. So when you tell me that for 55 employees, we need a full-time safety engineer, at that compensation package, you are so far out from the public-private sector, it's not even funny. So I've said my piece. I understand, and I certainly want to abide by the committee's recommendation. There's nothing I can do to counter that. But I'm certainly going to go on record saying I absolutely disagree with spending that kind of money on that. And I don't care that they've got extra job functions. I still don't think it has to be done with a full-time person. Other than that, I'm certainly going to go, going to abide by the committee's decision.
And I want to thank you for the process, because I think for all of us it was, as a new board member, I think it's important for your voice to be heard. So and that's why I think all of us, Georgina, I can't speak for Georgina, but for myself, let's take a look at this again. So it really forced me to look at it.
I don't think any of us, and I would never accuse any of this board of being a rubber stamp. And I certainly didn't run for this office to be a rubber stamp, but I feel like that's the position I was put in. I've got to vote. The way, the process that we had to approve this position with the budget left me no choice. Be that as it may, move forward.
Okay.
I just like to say a couple of things to get them on the record. I do agree with Rich in his comment about reopening things. I think it's a bad precedent to set that we can be arm twisted to go back and review things again. However, having said that, I think this was one situation where it was required because a new board member didn't fully understand the implication of passing the budget that had a full-time employee in it. And in his defense, he was only left with complaining, that's the wrong word. He was only left with bringing it back to us for review because it had happened at a time when he was still learning. And we've all said it before, this position is not one you can just step into and suddenly have all the answers. It takes a long time to understand what the steps are. Now he knows. You can be sure at the next budget he's going to look at every single thing. And that's good because you all know, I have said for a long time, that as a public agency, if we ever want to make a difference in the criticism we receive from the public, we're going to have to acknowledge that we pay far too much. We keep comparing ourselves to other public agencies, and so we keep raising them because we want to retain the good people, and it becomes this vicious circle. And all California is at fault, not just DSRSD. I don't know how we stop it, but we all know when we look at the position and the descriptions that our staff is making about 1.5 times what the public is making in the same position. And then the last thing is, I think we need to seriously consider in the future contracting some of the things that we're doing. We're really evolving into a maintenance organization. Of course, if you listen to Mr. Pico, we're running out of sewer capacity, and so we're going to have to expand again, but whatever. Anyway, if you really think we're heading towards a maintenance organization, then it might be wise to consider contracting some positions. So that's all I have to say. I do agree. Thank you very much for all the effort you put in. I myself was not aware of all of the job definitions there could be for a quote-unquote safety officer. So I do thank you for that. That was very informative, and next time we'll look at it differently.
Okay. Dr. Hackett? Okay. Any comments?
Welcome to governance. I've been on the short end of the board vote, so
But I'm going down fighting.
No, and you heard my little thing about the vets. I mean, take the long view. Sometimes it takes many years to change something. Director Scale, who I didn't always agree with, but I always respected. It took them, 6 years to finally change the way that we pay our employees. Maybe 8 years. So it's a process. We have to be able to get to 3. So it's a good exercise. And I will actually make a motion for the resolution. I want to be sure I have the right one. The resolution of the board reaffirming its prior approval and funding for the district safety officer position.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any no? All opposed?
No.
Okay, so noted. It passes. Thank you very much. And at this time, I'd like to go to board member items. And we'll start with Director Howard.
I actually have nothing special. I did take a ride down Highway 88, coming home from Palo. And if you ever want to see some fall foliage in California, which is not common, but take a ride down 88, right? It is gorgeous. So, and the lakes are very full. Well, sort of. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, Director Howard. Nothing? Director Gorky?
Nothing.
Okay, Georgie?
Count on me, right?
Director Wahid, or Vice President Wahid. Sure.
I just happened to come across reading the ACW whatever, newsletter that we get on a monthly basis. And I noticed that they're putting together a commemorative edition of the California Water Series that Hugh Hauser did. For $30, we can get the full 25 segments. And I would like to see us purchase these and give them to the school districts for whatever age group where they study the environment or ecology or whatever they're calling it these days. And then also maybe a set for the library. I mean, at $30.
We'll look into doing that. If there's any interest between this quote commemorative issue, or edition, and the early ones. But what you suggest, I believe, and I wish Sue was not here, but I believe we have done that for all the schools as well as libraries.
Okay.
I'll let you.
All right, great.
That's all. All right. For me, it's bittersweet because we're going to miss Mr. Dave Reedwell, who is going to be moving on the 27th of October. And we welcome John Archer to the dais. And so I would, and I just want to tell you how much I've appreciated you over the years. I'm still his favorite, I just want to let you know that. He'll understand what that means. But your contribution to not only this agency, but to the state and to the nation has been so significant and so amazing that you will forever be cherished for your insight, your honesty, and for just bringing people together for resolution for the good of this wonderful agency and everybody around the state. You've always brought a synergy that is always appreciative, and I personally will miss you. All of us will miss you, but we hope you come back and visit. And take us on tours of your range.
President Benson, if you would allow me a segue from that, perhaps this is revisiting the general manager's report, but it is related to Mr. Reedwell. I believe right now all the managers of all the government agencies and Pleasanton have reached an agreement with all the attorneys and the recycled water agreements. In order to keep this thing on schedule, long story there, but suffice to say, in order to keep it on schedule, I'd like to bring Mr. Reedwell back one more time, which is next week, Tuesday, for a meeting of the board, a special meeting of the board to consider those agreements. If we don't, if the schedule gets really compressed leading up to that. That's my sort of backhand way of asking you if you can attend the
Chatter
special
up.
meeting next week.
Yeah, I think we'd all agree with that.
And if they would,
I think
Would you be
I would
on it?
dearly love to finish that on my
Yeah,
watch.
John, you said about bringing people together, and, Dave was very instrumental, deserves a lot of credit for bringing people together. There was a lot of moving parts to it, he was sort of a steady Eddie saying, hey, we gotta keep working on this and keep doing this.
Well, I think
that'd
that's-
be a nice thing. That's a great idea.
I think that'd be awesome. So,
October
please.
22nd.
That would be up to us.
Okay.
6 o'clock, same time, 6 if it's up to next year.
Okay.
That's on the
Wherever.
Well, let's hope you do. You have a lot to say. You've accomplished a lot in this whole particular incident as it is, this issue. So, okay, with that, I'd like to adjourn the board meeting.
done with board meetings, you got one.